What's going on, cash flow hackers? It's Chris with Life 180, and I got my buddies back here with me today. Michael. Oh my gosh, I don't even remember all your names right now. Michael, Charles, Jeff, and Matt. Woo! We got a lot going on today. I feel like today's just been one of those days. I've been like since 8 o'clock this morning, like call after call after call after call after call. And every call is running like 4 minutes over into the next one. So it's like, don't even have a breather. So after we're done this, I've got a lot of work to do to catch up on, following up with people. But for the next hour or so, we're going to talk about how to make money as a life insurance agent, how to track that money, how to reach your goals. Everybody on this panel has different levels of background and success and experience, but everybody is going through this process of really trying to build their practice intentionally and understanding what to measure to actually accomplish the desired results that you're after. The way I look at it is anything measured improves. And I think unfortunately too often in this business, people get into it and, maybe they make a list and, they try to reach out to people, and self-deception is a real problem, about the activity that they have, thinking it's enough, or, just whatever it is. And so the goal of this video is that by the end of the video, you're going to have complete transparency and a formula that you can follow along and implement in your own life. So I think we're gonna use last week. So full transparency, everybody that's here. I started doing this last week. They kind of took over. My internet crashed here. I live in the jungle. Give me a break. And everything crashed. And it was bad actually last week, guys, because you guys have been here. Oh well, except for Michael. It wasn't even, the power in the town didn't even go out. Our electrical system just it just crashed. It wasn't even the town. It was my hotel's electrical system just like failed. And so I had to fix it. And it was like a 2-hour fix, but, had to be done. And so I was out of power and couldn't figure out what to do. But here we are. I figured let's go through this today. By the end of this video, you're going to have full transparency on knowing exactly how to calculate what you need to do to get to where you want to go. Anything you guys want to say to this before we get going?
No, let's talk.
Let's do it. All right. So what I'm going to do, let me see here. I'm going to try this. Go like that. All right. Everybody can see?
Yep.
So what I want to do is I want to focus on, let's do $100,000. Because last week, like I said, we were doing 50,000. But I think, I don't know. I just feel like if you shoot for 50 and you screw up, you're probably going to end up with like 30,000 in income, versus if you really push yourself and shoot for 100 and you screw up, you're still going to probably end up with $60,000 to $80,000 a year of income. And, obviously it's a much better number for most people. So let's just say desired income. So what are the variables that go into desired income? Like, let's just talk about it. Desired income is impacted by what? It's impacted by how many, go ahead. Sorry. Your comp level.
Yep.
So compensation level, and we'll talk about how that plays into, what this looks like. So let's just say 60% comp to start, and we'll talk about how that plays up, and it could be plus or minus that number, and we can talk about how that works. 'Cause I know some IMOs start people off at 30% on the bottom end, and I think, some are in the 60% range, but then as you start to make more sales and have more success, then you can go upwards, even hit like 100% comp. And that obviously makes it easier. So we have compensation, we have closing rates, right?
Yeah, definitely.
How many people do you have to talk to actually get a client? Let's just talk about 20%. That's what we were using last week. And Logan told me I was insane, and that was a really high number. But I will say this, is that if your number is less than 20%, I think you need to get really focused on your targeting and get better at your story, right? There's obviously a lot of things that go into you being effective, and we're going to talk about the high level ones here. But then, the last one is getting in front of people. Like, how would I phrase that? Like, just prospects or amount of conversations that you have?
Conversations. Yeah.
Conversations, right?
And per client.
Well, just conversations in general, right? Because
Yeah.
what we have to do is we have to look at how many conversations are we starting, right?
Hmm.
And then what's our closing rate of those conversations, and then what's our compensation rate, and we can really come close to figuring out what this $100,000 income is. So
For sure.
now if we say this and we say, all right, let's just run
Chris,
it
case
backwards.
size.
What's that?
Case size.
Oh yeah, case size. Sorry. See, this is why I have you guys around. I
Yeah,
don't
per client. So like what market that you're working in.
And persistency, which I don't know if we can start that with a C.
Continuity. How about that?
There we go.
The 5 C's.
Persistency. Although look at this, the 5 C's of reaching your financial goals. See, we're just making stuff up and we're making it work as we go.
I like frameworks.
Creativity is at its best. So this is how it works. Let's say you want to get $100,000. That's your goal, right? What we have to do is we have to say, all right, how many? If we say what's the average case size? Let's start first and foremost. What do you think, Matt? You deal with a lot of new agents, or anybody that's here that's closing cases. What do you think the average case size, the average base premium that people are paying, right?
Base premium. Well, it really varies because a lot of agents are in so completely different types of markets. But if I were to say fair, maybe like we'll say 2,500.
Right? Average base, target, term, however you want to, like different companies call it different things, right?
Yeah.
So we'll call it 2,500. Okay. So what do I mean by this? So like, I want to dive a little deeper, because if you're selling whole life, because let's face it, I like to train whole life agents. What we want to focus on is if somebody does say like a $6,000 premium, and let's call it a 60-40 blend, right? So 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 20, 2,400 would be base, right? And 3,600 would be PUAs.
Yep.
Right? And so this is like a real simple way to look at it. But in this scenario, now so when you break this down, this is about $500 a month, which is kind of a good base, solid savings account for kind of lower middle America, whatever that people can afford to save. And what happens is now we're in this $2,400 base. So with this, how we look at it, we have commission level. When we look at compensation, this 60%, 30 to 60%, right? So we're going to start at the 60% level. So 60% of the base, 6, 12, 1,200 plus 180, or 1,200 plus 240 is 1,440. 1,440 from that, and then 1.5% of PUAs is typically how it gets paid. So anybody know 1.5% of 3,600? It's not very much. It's like 54 bucks.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. So we can add that together, and we're at 1,494. Right. So this is how much money that you're making as a 60% agent. Right. And so now what we'd have to do is, if you're 60% and you say, okay, this is where I need to go. And I'm once again, so this, let's just call it 2,400 instead of 2,500, because that's what we're working with here. So if the average base is 2,400, you can see with a $500 a month plan for saving, you're looking at $1,494. Now, it's very simple to back that up and say, how many policies do I need to sell? So 100,000,
about 66
policies.
So about 5.5 a month. In a year.
Or 5.5 per month?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's a big number, y'all. If you're new in the business, that's a big number. It's a hard number to hit. Anybody disagree with that?
Oh yeah, when you first start, definitely.
Right? That's a hard number. So it's important to keep it in alignment with reality. Now, once again, we're talking about $100,000, right? Like, so if you could basically cut these numbers in half, and that's what it's going to be to get to 50, right? Or cut it in third, that's what it's going to be to get to 33,000. Like, the numbers that we're working on, or if you want to scale it, just double them, right? Or you could look at the different metrics that go into this. Now, a couple things that you can do for reaching your goals, and this is all about you understanding your market, understanding your metrics, and knowing what you're going to be focusing on to reach the level, right? So we can say, all right, rather than trying to get a raise in commission and all this stuff, I'm going to try to go up market rather than finding people doing 500 a month. Let's find people doing 1,000 per month with a similar thing, which would be 4,800 base, right? And it would be, well, instead of 12,000 minus 48, what are we at? 7,200? 7,200 PUA?
Yeah.
So if we start off at 60% of 4,800, we're at 2,880.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, I don't even need to do the math on this. If I just take this and I take this one variable and I double this,
Yeah.
right? Then I know I got to do half of this. It's going to be 33, right?
Yep.
It's a simple number. And so 33, now what's 33 divided by 12? It's like 3, right? Or like
2.75. So
2.75.
Yeah.
So
3. 2 to 3.
This number is a lot more reasonable, right? To like hit as far as the amount of policies that you're actually going to sell when you're newer in the business. And I would say it's even going to still be a lot of work to get there. It's probably going to be a 4 to 5 month ramp up period before you can even have that kind of business in the pipeline. Fair enough?
Yeah.
Okay. So when we look at that, now we have to say, all right, we know the metrics that we're looking at from a financial perspective. Now, my question is, well, what happens if I start earning more? Well, the answer is I can't really look at that in terms of like any other company. I could just look at our company, right? Because like we start people at about 60, and by the time you would do in this scenario, I don't know, your 4th or 5th policy, you would get a raise to 70, right? So from that point forward, you've got to do less work to get the same result, right?
Yeah.
And so knowing this formula, though, it would be, we would just have to figure out what the base is, and whatever it is, like right now we're doing 60%, you would just go times 0.7 for 70%. And that would be the new number that would create your commission on the base. Like for instance, right there, we were earning 2,880. If I go to 70% on the commission, it's now 3360, right? So actually 3360. And then if I minus that is 2,880, that's an extra $480 per sale that you're making just with that one pay increase, right? So yep. It's one of the reasons that, like, for me, I want to start agents higher. That's why we built our compensation plan the way that we did. We want to start it higher than other IMOs, and we want to make it so they get a faster bump, and they don't have to recruit people to get that pay bump. We want it so they can get that pay bump based on actual production. So they are more encouraged and incentivized to become more proficient and effective at what they do. You know what I mean? Before going out and recruiting people that they don't know how to support. Right. That's kind of the deal. But as we start doing this now, if I start saying, all right, 3360, for instance, let's say I get up into that range, 3360 is there. So if I go 100,000 divided by 3360, now it's only 29 divided by 12. Now we're only looking at 2.5. Yeah. This starts to become more of a reasonable number, right? Of the number that people can start to really expect to hit at this level. And this doesn't include all the other ancillary policies that you'll get, the one-off, term policies and stuff of that nature, because I think, it's important to understand that, like, those are Those are going to come into play as well. But I just look at them as bonuses. I like when it's nice when you can have a term policy not need to be relied on. Your business is built around helping people build their savings accounts. But then, when you find people that are not ready for that, maybe they have debt, they got to get out of debt, and they need just a convertible term policy or something like that. Well, now you can get them locked in with a convertible term policy. It'll help them. It'll give you a little cash flow, and it puts you in a position where you can coach them and you can help them for later, right, as they go through. I think that's I think it's really powerful to kind of look at it like that. But so guys, talk to me. This is where I want to like kind of come back here, because now, all right, we know the formula, right, of all right, here's whatever the compensation is going to have an impact, right? So you take the amount, let's write the formula out. I don't even have this written out. Amount of, oh my gosh, I can't even write today. Amount of desired income. What is this going to be? Amount of desired income. And then we go, how do we figure this out? Divided by average case size, right? Case size.
Mm-hmm.
And then we would do that. And then, right? Divided. So the total income divided by the average case size, then times multiplied by comp rate.
Yeah.
And that'll get you equals how many cases to reach goal. Right? Boom.
Yeah.
There we go. That's our little formula. And so that's all fine and good. But now the question is, what really matters is this number of cases, that you need to sell to reach your goal. Because like, all right, that's great. We know what we need to have. We know the metrics. We just got it from like 4 or 5 cases a month all the way down to 2.5. But the question is, if you like whatever your numbers are, the cool part about this is that it teaches you where you need to improve. It teaches you where the areas of improvement are and where the money actually is. It teaches you what metrics to actually measure and stay focused on. And at the end of the day, your compensation rate is a part of it, right? Your compensation rate, if you get a raise, most of the time that's going to be based on production. So that's not going to be something that you have a lot of control over out of the gate, right? It's just not. Your average case size is going to be a function of your competence and confidence in getting in front of the right people and identifying and targeting the right individuals to sell to. And then, we'll get to the continuity of business and persistency after this, right? Like, because that's going to be kind of a second stage conversation. But at the end of the day, now we're talking about this formula, and what really matters is how many cases. Let's just say we landed on this number, and based on our formula here, that we need to reach 33 cases a year, which is 2.75 a month, right? Which are at this level, and we're assuming that we're going for this $1,000 a month of saving level, which will lead us to this $4,800 base and 7,200 PUAs with the assumption of the blend and stuff, right? And so now, what are we looking at? We're looking at saying, how do we get to those 2.5 people? Well, now it's a function of how many conversations are you having, and what are your closing rates, right? So, guys, you guys talk to me real quick because you're newer in the business. I'm not a fair comparison for most people. Right. And I'm self-admittedly a little detached from reality sometimes as far as the expectations. Cause like I've done this so many times that it's like, walking a dog, riding a bike, whatever the expression is. And like, I feel like I could do it anytime, anywhere, anyhow, with any person, I've had 4 calls today with clients, with prospects. And they were all like layup sales, like at the end of it, pretty much, Matt and I just did one together. And it's not that it's a layup sale. It's a layup fit, you know, because of like what we have to offer, how and what they're looking for. And it really just becomes a function of communicating the value in a way that gets them to really realize that it is what they're looking for, or it's not, you know, and that's fine if it's not. And I think, you know, that's the key. So what do you guys think, like coming into this, like if you're measuring your income and you're looking at this, right, and you're looking at saying, all right, I know how many cases I need to sell. I understand the metrics. I understand what my comp rate is. I know what my numbers are. I have my target goals. So I know that my number is I got to sell, let's just call it 3 policies a month or whatever. What's the challenge? What's the greatest challenge for new people in getting to 3 sales of that nature per month?
I'd first like to say, you're saying these are layup sales, Chris. However, you put a lot of groundwork in to get to this point, right? All of the 1,300 videos that you have on YouTube and you reaching out and creating this whole environment, that's what creates that layup sell. So in order for us to achieve those same results, we need to create our own authoritative platforms, and that takes time, right? So understanding that takes time. In the beginning, it's a lot harder. You're pushing that rock up the hill. But just based off of the math that you laid out, and with a 20% close rate, to close 3 people a month, right? Protect 3 people a month.
Yep.
At a 20% close rate, you need to have 15, get in front of 15 people a month. So
that's one every other day.
It's not too difficult, but I would say maybe for me, my personal challenges, and Matt, I probably need to sit down with you a little bit more, so I can get over my hurdles, but just, being more bold with the ask, like, hey, let's sit down. I don't know if this is right for you, but it's something that I use in my life, and I think it's really powerful. I at least want to tell you about it. And then we could go from there.
How did they say no to that?
Yeah, but I just have trouble with that. So I need to get over my own internal anxieties and stuff like that. So.
Fair enough. That's good. So the other thing is, though, I want to be really, really clear. It's not 15 people of having like the courage to ask to sit down. It's 15 people that say yes to sitting down.
Yeah, right? What I meant by the 15 people
20% of the people to say yes, right, that they'll sit down. That means you'll lead to 3, right?
Correct.
But you may need to ask 40 people to get 15 people to say yes, okay? Like, just if you ask them to sit down and they said no, if you ask them to have a conversation to hear you out on what you think is so amazing that will help them, and they say no, you can't penalize yourself. To me, that's not a prospect. You never had a shot. That. You know what I mean? Like, you can't penalize yourself. Like, so that's where it comes into the conversation, right? The conversation part that we were talking about. This part is like, how many conversations do you have to get to this 20% number, right? Like, so, if I know with what Charles just said, 15 meetings equals 3 sales, right? Well, how many conversations do I have to reach 15 meetings, like with people to be like, hey, like, I got this thing, use exactly the script that Charles just used, right? Like, is it 50, right? At the end of the day, it's probably for Charles out of the gate, just using your example, buddy, you're probably going to be at 50 to get to 15. And the more confident that you become, and the more like just fluid you become with this 50 is going to become 35, right? And so it's just going to be more effective. And then that will become 30, and then it'll become 25. And then before you know it, you're going to be talking to so many people because you're going to have so much confidence, and you're going to realize, like, oh my gosh, like, everybody just says yes to this. Why the hell wouldn't I talk to everybody? And it'll just kind of take on a life of its own. And then what's going to happen is you're going to get better at the close rate because you're going to do it repetitiously. And that 20% is going to become 30%, become 40%. And, of the people that sit down with you, because you are identifying the right people, and you're bringing them in, and you're connecting with them, and you're really learning how to solve problems for them. And it's not about selling your stuff. as good as your stuff is, right? As good as like the widget that we're selling of whole life insurance is, it doesn't matter how good it is. If they don't understand how good it is for them and they don't have an emotional connection to what it's going to do for them, it doesn't matter. You know, that's our job. Our job is to not sell whole life insurance. Our job is to educate people to understand like what their challenges are and what they need to do to solve them, and see if they can align with the fact that this product has the attributes that are going to help them solve the problems in their life. It's that simple. And the better we get at communicating that, the more our conversion rates are going to go up, and the easier it's going to be to hit that 2.5 number, right? Because, or that 3 number, right? Like if I need to sell 3 and I got to have 50, I have to be bold 50 times. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, think about it this way. Let's break it down even simpler. Okay. Now, granted, it's not necessarily reaching our goals, but I also don't want people to like take on things that they're just like so worked up about that they don't feel like it feels like too much for them to actually do, because then they're going to go into like that fight or flight mode and they're just going to run from it. They're not going to do it at all. Right. So what I would encourage everybody to do is with these numbers, if we knew, like, let's just say a third of the people we ask will even sit down with us, or maybe let's say 20% of the people we ask will sit down with us. Okay. Roughly a third, like 20% of the people, we got to talk to 10 people to get 2 people to sit down with us and have a conversation. Okay. So that means if I talk to one person a day every month, that means I'll get 6 meetings a month. And if I have a 20% conversion rate, I mean, 16% is 1 out of 6, but like, let's just call it 1 out of 6. I'll close one, right? If I talk to one person a day and have a conversation with them, like, think about the difference mentally about this. If I just have the courage to not worry about, like, I'm going to ask Michael, and I'm going to ask Jeff, and I'm going to ask Matt, and I'm going to ask Charles, and all of them say no to me, right? Because I'm a little nervous and I'm a little uncomfortable, and maybe I'm not as fluid as I need to be, and maybe I'm stuttering a little bit. Maybe I didn't clearly communicate it, and I kick myself in the butt because I kind of dropped the ball with these guys, and now I feel like I let them down, but like, I'm just going to keep doing it. I'm not going to worry about the fact that they said no to me, because I'm not going to take it personally. I got to realize what I'm doing, I have a responsibility to get better at. And my favorite quote in the world is, if it's worth doing, it's worth doing poorly until you're good at it. And there's nothing more important that we do in this business than learning how to have those initial conversations and having the courage to just go up and have them, right? Because nothing happens unless you have that initial conversation, unless you have the boldness and the courage to go up and share what you do and share this amazing thing that you have to offer, right? And so, to me, I can't think of anybody that wouldn't have the ability, and not that it wouldn't be harder for some people than others, to think one day, put in your calendar every single day, today, I will talk to one person. I will have the courage and the boldness to go share with one person and invite one person to hear about what I do, to share how I'm using it in my life, and to share how I think it could be of help to them. And if it is, awesome. And if not, that's fine. Because what's going to happen initially, you're going to have 20% people that say yes. And out of 30, you're going to get 6 appointments. And then month 2, you're going to have 30 people that you ask. And what's going to happen is you're going to have 15 that say yes. Right? And now, boom. Right? And then at month 3, you're going to be like, holy crap, this is working so well. Why am I only talking to one person a day? This is stupid. Right? Like, yeah. But think about it. Even at one person a day, if you're kind of subpar at it, right? If you're subpar at one person a day, right? Just going out and you're having 30 conversations, like let's just call it 30 conversations at one person a day, right? And that leads to 6. Let's see, equals 6 meets equals 1 sale, right? Equals what was it? $4,800 times 12. What's 4,800 times 12? It's like $55,000, right?
Yep.
Is it?
Great.
57, 58. pretty much.
57. So, like, guys, like, this is where it gets kind of mind numbing to me. Okay. Like, I have a hard time. Like, to me, it's really clear, right? And like, granted, I'm detached, and it's where I try to not get frustrated, because like I haven't had to go out and talk to somebody because I had to in a long time at this point in time, but I had to at one point, and I did it, and and there's a part of me that misses doing it because it's fun at this point, but like every single person has the ability to, with one conversation a day, generate $55,000 to $58,000 of extra income. Where, like, how long and how hard is it to you have one conversation a day? If I told you could spend 15 minutes a day and you could make an extra $55K a year, but some days, 24 out of the 30 days that you're spending those 15 minutes, you're not going to make any money. It's not going to be effective at all. But, only 6 out of 30 days was it going to work. Would you still do it if you knew at the end of the year you're going to make 55K for 15 minutes a day?
Yep. Yeah, Chris, I think you said something key, and it's in Charles' script, but this is what I'm doing for myself.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
I think belief, it's all about belief, right? And I've heard it put this way. There's 3 things you have to have belief in: yourself, your company, and your product. Right.
Yeah.
And if you can transfer that belief to another person, then you have a sale. Right. And so the question is, do you believe in the product? Most people would say yes. A lot of times it's the belief in yourself, right? I think that's what holds most people back. It's the belief in self, because you haven't, you're not confident, right?
Yeah, that's fair.
But then it's also, hey, does this work, right? Am I utilizing this in my life? Because once it becomes your own experience, and you are utilizing your own strategies, it becomes that much easier to share, because it's just a part of you. It's what you're doing, right? When it's not what you're doing, it does become hard to talk about, right? Because then it's just theory. But when you're actually doing it, you actually have your own plan. It's like, no, this is my life. I'm speaking from real experience, and the belief's going to be there.
Totally. So, Matt, what do you see? You talk to more agents than I know of anybody else that I know. Like,
this whole process is very helpful. Like, you have to go through the numbers. You have to know everything that we went through. You have to know the formula. But working with every agent, like in the beginning stages, even with belief is still not enough, because everybody has a comfort zone. Everybody doesn't want to feel inadequate. Everybody's uniquely different, that has a fear that has to be uniquely overcome for each person. So no person's the same. Yeah. But where I really focus on is just really the first 2 steps: conversation, and then conversion from conversation to appointment. If I can get that fixed for an agent, everything else falls in place. Only if this one thing happens, they give me continuous feedback. Without the feedback, it is going to be a long process. So I had a talk with the agent last week, and we had this conversation, like, look, how many conversations are you having a week? Well, I'm having 3 to 5 a week. I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't know you're talking to that many people a week. How come I haven't even heard about it? Like, what's going on? They're just not interested. And I'm saying, look, you're doing something that most agents are unwilling to do. You're willing to talk to them, but you're finding out that what you're saying is not working. I almost can guarantee it. I will almost even put money on it. If somebody actually had conversations, and then they loop me on every single conversation, what they said, and then they actually followed my coaching, I'm almost confident that over 80% of their conversations will lead to an appointment. Now, once we get into an appointment, now I got to coach them how to go to appointment to submit application. Then when I get there, submit application to close, and then it's starting with the bottleneck for most agents is conversation, not having enough. So I'm almost like, just say whatever you want. Just go have more conversations. At least get over that hump, right? Just go vomit, whatever. At least you're taking more actions than the one that's just like, I can't even talk to anybody, right?
Totally.
But that, to me, that's the biggest bottleneck. It's conversation, right? Even just doing a conversation, and then conversation to an appointment.
And getting a
Once
feedback.
I usually iron that out, things start to fall in place because that's when confidence comes in, belief, like, oh my gosh, this is easier, I can do it. And but I think really this industry is just all about conversation. We had that training yesterday. We talked about it. It's like without conversation, without the raw material, none of this matters. None of this is going to happen. None of it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so now the question is, how do I have conversations? Well, and one of the things we talked about in training yesterday is the clear difference I see between agents. Some are very resourceful, some are not. And resourcefulness is just utilizing everything you have access to. And a lot of agents don't even utilize half of what they have access to. Right. And then that's where all these meetings came in. Like, look at the community of agents we have access to. You could partner, create podcasts, you could do group, all this stuff we're not even using, right? Let alone the 100 numbers that you have in your phone. For some reason, you put them in your phone, but yet you're not being resourceful, right? And I think that's where agents need to start. Look, you could generate leads, you could get leads for sure, whatever. But I think it'd be wasteful to not utilize everything you have have access to first, and then build your skills, build your confidence, build your belief. And then if you want to do leads or whatever, however you want to do it, sure, go do that. But develop yourself first through that process. And it's just really come down to resourcefulness, conversation.
Couldn't agree more. What, I mean, I think what you hit, what you said, you hit the nail right on the head. I think the resourcefulness and the conversations, and I think it's expectation management, right? Because if you go into this thinking you're just going to be, as good as Matt Seibert or Chris Kirkpatrick or, at doing this when you first start, like, it's just, you're setting yourself up for failure. Like, you know what I mean? Like, not only that, you can't go in there trying to like be like me. I get it. I remember when I first started making videos, I was trying to watch other people and like be them and, make videos exactly like them. And I tried to change my tonality and the way I would like even stand and position myself. And now I just don't give a shit. It's just like, whatever. I just do what I do. Yeah. Just be you. Just be you. Because like anything except for that is going to be, you're going to be exposed at some point in time, right? You're going to realize like, you're going to feel like an imposter at some point in time. You know why? Because you're being an imposter. Like you're being an imposter in the way that you're trying to emulate other people. Now that you like educate yourself, do it. But the best way to not be an imposter is to just be you and surround yourself with people that you can lean on. So you don't have to act like you're the end all be all solution to everybody's problems, but you have an amazing team that can solve people's problems. And I think that's a big difference, right? Like if Charles goes out and Jeff goes out, and they try to just do things completely on their own and they're not leveraging a team of resources and they're just saying, hey, like, I'm trying to position myself like, as this big guru, like that's, helped all these people and done all these things. They've both done cool things. Like, don't get me wrong, but at some point in time, they're going to reach a level. By the way, they should be going for a level that makes them uncomfortable. Is that fair? Like, that's just the reality. But if you're going after a level that's uncomfortable, I'll go back to a conversation that I had with one of our agents the other day, Arima, right? Like she had, I don't think she'll mind me saying her name, like, but she had these great conversations with people, and she got a conversation going, but it was with a high level real estate investor, a guy that runs a real estate investment fund. She was never going to be able to speak at his level, or even if she could, she was never going to be able to connect with him and articulate and relate to him because she doesn't deal with the problems that he does. So I run a fund. I deal with all these things as well. And so she's like, hey, will you come in and help me? I did. And it ended up being an amazing conversation, right? Like, and so she didn't have to have this imposter syndrome being like, hey, I've dealt with all these things before. I can help you and this and that. And whole life insurance is amazing. She was just like, listen, I think this could be amazing for you. It's amazing for me. I've got a guy that I work with. He also does what you do, and it's amazing for him. So would you be willing to have a conversation? Because I think there's a chance it could be amazing for you. I mean, that's basically it. Like, she didn't have to have imposter syndrome. She got to flex her network, flex her relationships in a very casual way. And it's going to lead to a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
and it's going to lead to a dude who's like way better off now, and he's going to have a business succession plan, and he's going to have like an investment, like an opportunity fund for everything he has going on with his real estate investment. And like, because I was able to help make it relevant to him, and he was able to emotionally connect with the different problems this was going to help him solve in his life in a way that she just, is not even a lack of understanding the technicals of it, because she actually knew all the technicals of it. It's just knowing the emotional triggers in life and where you are and why it matters, and like really connecting with people on that level. That's what makes a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so like that, to me, that's everything here. That's going to be the difference between succeeding and failing, is getting on the right team, getting with people you can trust. We got to know the numbers. We got to know the metrics, all that math that we talked about. If you're just getting here, go back and watch a replay when it gets posted, because you got to know that stuff. But at the same time, like, I mean, I don't know, like, you guys tell me, like, what, am I missing anything there? Because like, to me, like, why is it, like, let me ask a question. Why is it even with all that, people still don't do what they need to do?
Comfort level. Comfort zone, number one. That's it.
Yeah. Jeff, you haven't talked much. What's going on with you?
Yeah, I mean, I think a few thoughts. I think, just from my own experience and observing some other people, that have been in the industry that I've known for, 5-6 years, it's kind of perplexing. Like, why do we do what we do? I think one of the things I've seen is, the order that we laid out, having conversations and then going through an appointment and then going through an application and going through the underwriting process. Like, for some reason, agents want to learn like the bottom rung things first and then like work their way backwards. Like, let's learn all about the policy. Let's learn all about the mechanics of life insurance. And obviously you need to know some, but it's like we want to master those things first before we master how to have a conversation. It's like we have it in reverse, right?
Yep.
And, I don't know why that is. I think we have a lot of programming and a lot of, blocks and things that get in our own way, fears and different things like that obviously you got to work through, right? You have to know where you're at. And I think that's one of the benefits. Like, Matt, you were talking about the training you did yesterday. It was a fantastic training about, a lot of the things that we need to be doing, the metrics, knowing the score, how are you performing in those things? And as you have conversations, you have appointments and you do applications, like figuring out, okay, where do I need to get better? And going through those repetitions and dialing in certain aspects of the whole process so that you're getting better at the conversations. You're getting better at communicating what needs to be done in the appointment. You're getting better at the application process. You're getting better at bringing someone all the way to close and getting the check and, following up with them after the fact and servicing them. And like, there's all those things that you need to learn as an agent. And it can be overwhelming, I think, on the front end. But I think having the sounding board, having the training, having somebody to go to is so key to know, because we don't know coming in. I think last week we talked about this. I mentioned this was, when we get our life insurance license, we're suddenly a life insurance salesman, but we don't really have any, we haven't gone to a semester of college. We haven't gone to any real like sales training seminars. Most of us, we just get into the industry and we don't know anything, and we don't know how to communicate. We don't know how to articulate and communicate ideas and find out where other people are at and how to, bridge that gap between what we're offering and where they're at. And, without the repetitions, without the education of knowing what to say and how to say it, how to position it, and, screwing it up 10 times and getting the mentorship from Matt or you, Chris, and just, okay, this is what you could do better here. Like, going through those repetitions is what, gets you sharper and sharper. I think a lot of people are afraid that, I know this is for me, I want to know it all before I get started. I want to be perfect before I start, instead of starting and getting perfect along the way. And I think that's a big distinction that a lot of people, go through just naturally.
So you said something that I want to touch on. Starting at the bottom, right? The back end of the process and the product knowledge and all that stuff. I would say there's an element, I believe, of the product knowledge that you need to understand. And I think there's an element of, the product knowledge you have to, I think you have to know at least enough to believe in it. And I think the best way to learn it and believe in it is to have it on yourself, right? And to go through the process on yourself, to be able to be able to share that experience with other people and be authentic about it, right? Like, and really see it in action and know what it's actually going to do, and not just, it's not theoretical to you, it's real life application, you know? So I think there's that. The second level, though, all the underwriting, all the, I don't know, like whatever. I'm writing premiums right now that are multiple six figures several times a year, and my average premium size is probably $15,000 to $25,000 a year on base, right? So we just did the math. You guys can calculate what that looks like, right? And so, like, when you look at it like that, I'll tell you what. You know when the last time I took my own application was and dealt with all the underwriting?
Years
6
ago.
months ago.
Never.
Nice.
Okay. Now, and here's why. And it's expensive for me, right? It's expensive because I give up 20%. Even me, the owner of the company and all this stuff, I have to write somebody else on for 20% to handle that part of the deal. So when I write a premium that's $200,000 a year and the base is $50,000, I'm basically giving up, all said, probably $10,000 to $15,000 on that, plus some of the renewals, plus like whatever. You know what I mean? It's costing me that much money. But you know what it's doing? It's freeing me up. Because if you've ever gone through like closing somebody emotionally on getting it going, and they start the application, going through sitting down with them to take the application and doing the underwriting and being there to answer their questions and dealing with all the garbage that goes along with that. Do you know how many conversations I could have during the time that all that would be distracting me and working in my business instead of growing my business, instead of going out there and being a rainmaker and having more conversations, which, by the way, if I just am willing to invest that 20% out of the gate and have somebody else handle that underwriting, somebody else handle that whole process, it frees me up to not even have to worry about it.
Yeah.
Right? It's getting done, and I have confidence that it's getting done. And so I could just go, instead of one conversation a day and then being bogged down with all that other stuff, I can go have 5 conversations a day. And now what's going to happen? And I'm going to be able to have 5 conversations a day with less stress and less time. And that's going to put me on this cycle of getting better and better and better and better and better at what I do, which is going to lead to more sales, which is going to lead to everybody being happy. Right. And, you know, it's just like, to me, if you're in this business, you are in this business for one reason. And listen, this is not exclusive to what we do, right? It's you know, is it Dan Martell, Charles, the book you gave me, the guy?
Yep,
you know,
yep.
What do they say? Outsource everything that you can, right? And buy your time back so you can focus on the areas that light you up, that, you know, are your unique ability. I got news for you. If you're in this business, I don't care how good you are at underwriting, how good you are at the technical knowledge, how much you know about policy design, how much you know. If you are not good at communicating with people, all those things, and good at starting conversations, all that other stuff doesn't matter. You will fail. I promise.
Mm-hmm.
So why are we spending any time on those things when there are plenty of people that you could just write on for a little percentage of the deal and they will handle that, because they don't have big drive. They don't, maybe your goal is to make 50,000 a year and you're happy with that, you know, then find somebody who wants to be a rainmaker and say, hey, Michael, you're amazing. I see you getting a lot done. What if I were to help you with this and take care of all your underwriting? Give me 20% of the deal so you can go close, you know, 5x more. We'll all be happy.
Yep.
Like, if that's you, go be the administrative, like, licensed administrative assistant type person.
Yeah.
Like, if that's you. But like, if you want to build a business, you can't be worried about spending money and investing money in growing your business. And like, make no mistake about it, you can invest money by paying a salary to somebody and saying, hey, I'm going to give you 50 grand a year to do this. Or if you don't have 50 grand, or you're not in a place where your cash flow makes sense yet to pay somebody of that nature, just write them on when you write a piece of business. And that will be, you know, what it is. And build that system out. That's why we've done this at Life 180, to be able to have that option for everybody that wants to do it, because I truly believe if you really want to build something big and you're taking your own apps, you're an idiot. That's what I believe. Like, you should not be doing it. Like, it is the biggest mistake you are making in your business that is keeping you from your goals, is focusing on the stupid administrative tasks that are keeping you from focusing on the activities that you need to be focusing on to be successful.
Unless you don't want to focus on those activities.
Rant
then might as well do
over.
it.
Go ahead. Somebody talk. My head's going to pop.
I think you hit it on the money, Chris. I think there's becoming an agent and there's becoming a business owner. And I think sometimes they're two separate things, right? A lot of people don't have this kind of mentorship that you just provided, right? They know how to become an agent. They know how to get on the phone and make sales, but they don't know how to run a business. And so if you're an agent, you want to look at that long term, right? How does this get easier? How do I want my life to look like? Like, think about the end in mind. How do you want your life to look like? And then build that, right? Like, work backwards from that. And yeah, that was a great advice. I'm going to actually follow that myself.
I think it's interesting how, when someone gets into the industry, they automatically think that they're going to be successful, and that can occur. I'm not saying that it won't. And I know Matt disagrees, or he sees different perspectives than I do. But let's face it, guys, getting into the industry, the barrier to entry is pretty easy. It's not that difficult to get your license. No. It could take a couple weeks to make it happen, right? So that barrier to entry is the easy part. If you view it as like college, like a 4-year college, your first year might be kind of like an internship, or maybe you're not making that much money. There's the potential to make money, right? I feel like that's more the exception to the rule.
Sure.
And it's not a rule, but it's just, the experience that I've had personally overcoming my own challenges. But then maybe like your next year is kind of like residency, where you're making a little bit of money, you're figuring things out. And it's not till your 3rd, 4th, 5th year, like once you start like really rolling, like after your 4th year, you're probably making more than your average college graduate anyways at that point. And then from there, as long as you continue to grow, it just exponentially grows because your skills increase. Maybe you're building a team at that point. When you're viewing things from that perspective, I think it's a way more impactful industry. And, the trajectory that you're on when you approach things like that is going to accelerate at a much faster pace. And it's going to compound compared to just going to a W-2 job and, trading hours for money, where you can start really just growing an empire within the industry.
Oh, this guy is funny. I didn't make 6 figures my first year because of the fact that I was like really good. I had good referral partners and I was lucky. And I've said that several times. In fact, I've also said I probably would have failed out of the business because of my stubbornness if I weren't fortunate enough to have referral partners that I had, of people that I knew that were in positions to just help me. And they had no reason to trust me aside from the fact that we had a good relationship and they just trusted me, Then professionally, they didn't know if I would really last or not. They just gave me referrals, but I was bold enough to ask for them. You know what I mean? That's it. And so, I think that's a big thing. The thing, what was I going to say? Oh yeah. So you said something, Charles. I want to like touch on this because I think it bears like, let's think about the 2 tracks. Okay. 2 tracks. This is something that I always thought about. For a lot of my life, people said, Chris, like, you're struggling. You just went through this lawsuit. You're buried financially. Like, why don't you just cave in and go get your, $150,000 a year sales job? Because to most people, their level of success, a top 10% income is like 150 grand a year. And that's like amazing, right? And to me, I'm like, if I get stuck making that, that's not a track I want to be on. So let's just say, you have somebody that has the ability to make $100,000 per year, and that's it. And let's plus it by 3% per year, right? And we go down and we hit year 10. And I don't know what that ends up being per year, but it's probably like 145,000 or so. per year of income. So this is like, what is it fair to say that like most American families, if you were to look at this person right here, to go down to here, if this is the track they were on, this would be considered successful?
I mean, I wouldn't consider that successful.
You wouldn't, but you're
Average,
here.
yeah, I would say most people.
But most people would qualify that as successful.
Yeah.
Six-figure income is among the top 10 to 15% income earners in the country. Fair enough?
Yeah.
And if I think thinking objectively, for us to say that's not successful is kind of, I don't know, rude, right? Like if you're in the top 15% of income, like, and that's not considered successful, I don't know what we have a different desire for our own life, but it doesn't mean people at that level are not successful, quote unquote. Right?
Charles and I also live in Huntington Beach, California. So okay,
that's fair. So that's a different world, right? Well, and that's you guys do that optionally. We'll put that out there. So, so the 2-track is like track 1, which everybody thinks is like, okay, the standard, and this is what everybody was trying to get me on, right? And then there's track 2, where year 1. I got out, and I'm just going to start right when I had gone from making a lot of money, doing well with the company that I left, and then, having zero, and then having a negative $250,000 18-month, right? And then basically being in a trouble financially, trying to figure out how to make it all work. And then I got to the place where I was like making $30,000. I had 1 year I had to move back in with my in-laws, which was humiliating, right? And then I took thing after thing after thing, and for year after year, I made between 30 and 60,000, even though my standard and what I thought was, what was my comfort level was about $250,000, right? And to me, everybody's like, dude, jump ship, just go over here. You can have some stability and do it, And for some people, maybe it makes sense to do that and then do this part-time, and that's fine. But for me, I knew that if I compromised, there was no guarantee that I was ever coming back, and I refused to compromise on my goals. And the thing about this business is that if you just do this and you start with 30,000 a year, and then you build your proficiency, if you get to a place where you can make 60,000 a year, if you do nothing but 60,000 per year for 10 years in a row, you're going to be above this because renewals are going to kick in. And this is what we were talking about at the beginning. Renewals, persistency, your whole business is going to grow. You're going to be making about as much as this $145,000 a year before the year even starts. And then on top of that, you'll be making more, and you're going to have more time freedom, more lifestyle freedom. You're going to have bigger impact for the most part. And to me, that's where this like business becomes a no-brainer. If you just think long enough term, and if you could just hold in there. That's why I believe doing it part-time for people that don't have the ability, to pull the trigger, and to take that leap because they're not prepared for it, where it makes sense, but like when you look at that, I think it's way oversold what you can accomplish. And it's one of my favorite quotes as well, is like people way overestimate what they can accomplish in a year, and they way underestimate what they can accomplish in a decade. And I think this industry is case in point to that, where it's like people get in and 93% of people fail in the first 3 years. I'm gonna say they don't fail, they quit. You can't fail out of this business, everybody. Nobody kicks you out. I got news for you. Nobody fires you. You don't get kicked out. You don't get kicked out of this business. Nobody fires you. You quit. You give up. That's why you're out of this business. You quit. You give up on your dreams. You give up on your goals. You give up on yourself. That's why you get out of this business. That's the only reason you get out of this business.
Yeah, Chris, I think you said it perfectly right there, because I don't believe anybody actually quits this business. They quit on their goals. They quit on their dreams. If your goals and dreams aren't basically married to the business, like, I don't know what you're doing.
Well, I mean, I think it's just, if your goals and dreams, they don't, I mean, I don't know. Define, what do you mean by married to the business?
So married, I'll give you my example. My goals and dreams have nothing to do with this business.
Right.
But the business is how I get there. Right.
The business is the catalyst for you.
The business is the vehicle. Right. So my goals is like, I want to be a good dad. I want to take care of my daughter. I'm a single dad.
Dare you?
Right. I want to give her a great life, right? I want to do things for her. I want to, but I also want to do it in a way where I can be home and be present, because my previous career, I was able to do that, but I got told when I got to go home. Sometimes it was 24-hour shifts, right? So for me, it's like, if I go back to that, I'm giving up on my daughter. I'm giving her the life I really want to give her. I'm not giving up on the business, right? So the business to me is the vehicle to get me to my goals. But my goals are my daughter, my family, right? The life I want to give her. So I think it goes back to your why, right? Like, why are you in this business? And really, really hammer down on that, because people don't, like I said, they don't quit the business; they quit on themselves.
Mm-hmm. And to add to that, if you're just in this business for sales, like, just don't do this. Like, there's way easier sales you can make. Get into solar,
call sales,
or
please.
Root salesman. Like, don't do this. Like, at least have some kind of a passion for protecting people's lives, right?
If you want to do sales, come down here and I'll give you commissions for selling retreats for the hotel. I'll do that.
Go sell cars.
Easy.
Yeah, I think what Michael said was spot on. Like, to me, I found this industry to be the best vehicle, because when you look at industries where it's all about serving and helping people, usually they don't pay well. And if you go into an industry that pays well, it's not about serving and helping people. And this is the only industry that I found where it's like you can really make an impact generationally and help a lot of people, but it pays very well too. It's like you got the best of both worlds. I just haven't seen anything else to the magnitude of this industry, which is really awesome.
I love it. Well, I think it's awesome. Anybody have anything else they want to add before we roll? I think this is good. I think we covered a lot today.
Yeah, I think, we've said a little bit about, don't get into the industry if you're this. Well, get into the industry if you're looking to really grow yourself in a lot of ways that I would say is spiritual growth, deep spiritual growth, to figure out what's holding you back from a lot of things we've talked about today. You got to have some courage. You got to have boldness. You got to have a lot of those strong attributes about yourself. And if you're somebody that desires that refinement out of life, get into this industry. Do it.
Yeah, and I'll double down on that and say, whatever. How do I put this? If your goals don't scare the crap out of you, get bigger goals. Like you should be stretching yourself. You have like a responsibility to scare yourself. Now, that doesn't mean act irresponsibly and just chase them, with abandon, recklessly, to do it. But whatever you're doing should scare you. I scare myself every single day, and I've just gotten really used to being scared, and just operating in that. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, I do things and I stretch myself. I mean, I've had a lot of conversations with Charles about this specifically. I stretch myself and do shit that I don't even know if it's going to work. I risk money that most people would be like, why would you do that? Like, and I just, literally, my wife calls it, she always says, Chris, you have more faith in just step into air thinking the ground is going to be there more than anybody I've ever met in my life. But guess what? The ground's almost always there, and it's, you got to do it on a calculated basis. And I never risk more than I can afford to lose. That's why I always say, what's the upside? What's the downside? Can I live with the downside? Because if it's air and there's no ground and I fall on my face, which happens, I need to make sure I can rebuild. That's the importance of financial structure, right? That's the importance of having our foundations built to be able to go do these things, and when you do this and you align your money with your values and beliefs and you set yourself up in a way that you can have the courage and have the boldness and be scared and still chase it and set bigger goals and dreams for yourself, it puts you in a position where, that's, I don't know, to me, that's the journey of this life. That is what this is all about. It's not how much money can I make, it's not how many houses can I have and how many vacation homes can I have and rental properties can I have and how many cars can I have and boats and all this stuff, or even hotels. It's what am I trying to do? What do I want this life to be about? What do I want this legacy to be? What do I want my impact to be? What do I want my relationships to be? And all these things. And you know what? To really fully actualize all that, because living the standard way is, you're a slave to the system. I'm sorry, but you are. And it's going to be impossible for you to live full out in a fulfilled manner where you're actually contributing to the people in your life that you care about in the full capacity that you have, it's going to be impossible if you live according to the standard way, especially in America, right? It's going to be impossible. So it's on you to make a decision to step outside of that and to be bold enough to live according to your dreams. And if your dreams don't scare you, well, then your dreams are too small.
Are we charging for that? I think we should charge for this. This is good stuff, man.
So, like,
That's our,
I don't know, man. Like,
coming in our mini course that's coming up.
there you go. I don't know. Fired up right now. I don't know why. You guys got me all riled up. But no, this has been awesome. I had fun. Thanks for coming, guys. Everybody, if you haven't already, make sure you click subscribe, hit the bell, all that fun stuff, because we're doing videos like this all the time. Matt and I are going live again tomorrow. Everybody here, we're going to be live again next week. We're going to be talking about some other stuff about whole life insurance. I got a plan for that. Nobody knows it yet, but I do. And we're going to be getting into that. It's going to be fun. And yeah, go follow them. I'm going to put the link below, but I think all of their pages are also on the associated channel page on the Life 180 site. So you can go check that out as well. And that's it for now. Have a blessed, inspirational day. Let me know if you have any questions, comments about this in the chat. And if you're somebody who's looking to get in the business, you need to call Matt. That's what you need to do. Go to agent.life180.com. If you're with a different company that's letting you down, reach out. We're here for you.